Caesar's Legion, the worst enemy one can face in the wasteland. Their sheer size and brutality crushes even the mightiest of warriors under their boot. This perpetual motion machine of blood, guts, and savagery blazed an empire out of the American Southwest, encompassing all of what was once Arizona and New Mexico, with large parts of Colorado and Utah in tow. But how did such a ruthless army arise in the desolate wastes of post-nuclear annihilation? It all began when a tribe of survivors ransomed the wrong man. Nearly 2 centuries following the Great War, a young man by the name of Edward Sallow and a group of his fellow scholars would depart the ruins of Los Angeles, making a trek out to the Grand Canyon in order to establish contact with as well as record the languages used by the tribes inhabiting the area. Upon their arrival, the group's first contact was with the tribe known as the Blackfoot. Now, it should be noted that the Blackfoot tribe encountered in the Grand Canyon was formed in the post-war and bears no relation to the historical Blackfoot tribe of Native Americans from the Alberta and Montana regions of North America. Now with that said, let's continue. The Blackfoot tribe turned out to be one of the many groups that inhabited this small slice of Arizona paradise. While you would think this would have led them to lives of peace and tranquility, they were anything but peaceful. Having found themselves at war with 7 other tribes, things were not looking up for the Blackfoot. While communications between Sallow's group and the tribe were friendly at first, they quickly soured, likely due to a mistranslation on the part of Joshua Graham, the party's interpreter.
No, not then. Back then he was just Edward. Smart man. Young, but we all were. We thought we could hike into the Grand Canyon and talk to Blackfoots. We did. And the Blackfoots were friendly enough at first. But eventually... I've thought back to that day so many times. I must have mistranslated. Something must have been mixed up, because the Blackfoots decided we weren't going to leave. The rest is history, assuming Edward hasn't changed it.
Following this downturn on their journey, Sallow and his crew, including Graham, were seized and held prisoner while the tribe attempted to hold them for ransom to an unknown third party. It was in this period of captivity that the dire state of the tribe would reveal itself.
When I was 20, the followers sent me east to Grand Canyon. It was my first expedition. Just me and a physician named Calhoun. As an anthropologist and linguist, my assignment was to learn the dialects of the Grand Canyon tribes. What a fucking waste of time. Anyway, we met up with a Mormon missionary who already knew a bunch of dialects. Joshua Graham. He was supposed to teach me. But before that went too far, the Blackfoot tribe captured us to hold us for ransom. They were a backward bunch. But the real problem was, they didn't know how to fight. The Blackfoot were at war with 7 other tribes, each just as pissant as they were. But outnumbered like that, they weren't going to last long. It's one thing to be taken hostage, another to be lashed to a sinking ship. So over Calhoun's objections, I decided to take certain steps.
The Blackfoot just so happened to be at war with not 1, not 2, but 7 other tribes. Sallow quickly took notice of the tribe's unfortunate circumstances, realizing that he would be killed alongside the tribe if they lost these wars, developed a plan to save himself. A plan that, when implemented, would set in sequence a chain of events that would change the landscape of the wasteland forever. Sallow realized that the Blackfoot were inept in warfare. They had guns, but could hardly use them. They had men, but could not properly implement them. They were a sinking ship and quickly running out of time. Against the wishes of his travel companion, Bill Calhoun, Sallow proposed knowledge to the tribe in exchange for his freedom. With the tribe amenable to this proposal, Sallow began instructing them in basic firearm operations.
I taught them how to use the guns they already had, how to strip and clean them, how to breathe when pulling a trigger, how to reload ammunition. They looked at me like I was some kind of a sorcerer. So I taught them how to make explosives and started drilling them on small unit tactics. If there's anything I learned as a follower of the apocalypse, it's that there's a lot of good information in old books.
Having been named acting war chief by the tribe, it wasn't long before Sallow led the Blackfoot into battle. His first target, a nearby tribe known as the Ridgers, the weakest enemy of the Blackfoot. With the added training and explosives, the tribe would steamroll the Ridgers, pressing them to the point of defeat. They were outgunned and outmanned, yet refused to surrender. Upon hearing this, Salo ordered the execution of the entire tribe. Men, women, even the young ones. It was in this moment that the landscape of warfare for these tribes would be irrevocably changed, birthing an entirely new beast. After the eradication of the Ridgers, Salo would direct his attention to the tribe's next weakest enemy, the Kaibabs. With their confidence bolstered from their recent victory, the Blackfoot would fight valiantly against the tribe and likewise surround them. However, when the Kaibabs refused to surrender despite their worsening situation, Salo would change his tactics.
Divide et impera, divide and conquer. I led the Blackfoot against the Ridgers, their weakest enemy. When they refused to surrender, I ordered every man, woman, and child killed. When next we surrounded the Kaibabs, and they likewise refused, I took one of their envoys to the Ridgers' village and showed him the corpse piles. This was new for the tribes, you see. They played at war, raiding each other, a little and pillage here, a little ransoming there. I showed them total warfare. Like I said, there's a lot you can learn from old books.
Horrified at what lay before them, the Kaibabs caved and turned over their arms to the Blackfoot. Upon their humiliating surrender, the survivors would be forcibly integrated into the Blackfoot tribe, and the cycle would begin anew, with the conquering of the Fredonians.
Kaibabs joined me, and the Fredonians after that. All the pissant tribes with names that should be forgotten.
One by one, the tribes of the Grand Canyon fell to the growing power of Salo's army. Soon, the entirety of the canyon and its surrounding area was his. While Salo had earned the freedom of himself and his compatriots while simultaneously growing into an immensely wealthy and powerful warlord, he faced a new worrisome concern. The assimilation of the various tribes into one nation was not going smoothly. The various tribal identities and customs clashed, resulting in infighting amongst the band. Salo was keenly aware that if his conquests were to continue, he would need to destroy the series of unique identities plaguing the tribe and unite everyone under a single monolithic culture, and he knew just how to achieve this. During his time as warlord of the Blackfoot tribe, Salo became obsessed with two pre-war texts whose influence would not only shape his tactics as a leader, but his vision as a dictator. These two texts are known as the History of the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire and Commentarii de Bello Gallico, the former outlining the history, culture, and politics of the Romans, and the latter depicting Julius Caesar's personal commentaries of his conquest of Gaul, what is now modern-day France. Salo recognized that Roman culture was so foreign and removed from the cultural context that he and the tribes found themselves in, that it would create the perfect paradigm shift for long-term unification. He crowned himself Caesar and reformatted his band of conquered tribes into what is now known as the Legion, stripping them from their heritage, language, and culture, replacing it with trappings of their imperial Roman equivalents. Soon the tribes would learn Latin, worship Mars, and fashion themselves in crimson. With this new vision realized and set into motion, Salo no longer had use for the others that he originally journeyed here with. He sent Calhoun back to his home deep in NCR territory with a message that he is not to be interfered with. As for the interpreter Joshua Graham, well, his prowess as a warrior and knowledge of dialects made him invaluable to Caesar. Graham was named the first legatus of the Legion and would be primarily responsible for leading their troops into battle. Following their establishment in Arizona, Caesar's Legion would continue on to conquer countless tribes so thoroughly that no record of their origins currently exists. Only a few survived, either through legend, recollection from those that were born into the tribe, or from what they left behind. Among the first of the tribes to be contacted following the formation of the Legion were those of the Painted Rock tribe, thought to have hailed from the Painted Hills of Arizona. Legionaries that have come from this tribe are some of the oldest and most experienced, renowned for their battle prowess even amongst the likes of the elite NCR Rangers.
Word is that the Legion's old-timers have shown up. Caesar's veterans from the Red Okie Centuria and what was the Painted Rock tribe. They're the best of the best and the baddest of the bad. Short of a Centurion or Praetorian, they don't come any tougher. You come across a pack of them, Weigh your options carefully.
The fate of the Painted Rock tribe was clearly assimilation. However, their skill and prowess allowed their legacy to be one of the few who survived Legion assimilation. Two other notable tribes whose names have not yet been forgotten to history are those of the Sundog tribe and the Twin Mothers. In the event of the Sundogs, their annihilation was so complete that their legacy only survives through the legionary who personally conquered them, a Deconus by the name of Dead Sea. Nothing survives of the tribe beyond that. Not their size, location, language, nothing. They exist merely as a checked box on Dead Sea's path to Conturion. As for the Twin Mothers, their legacy survives in more than just name, but also in what they gave to the Legion, a healing concoction by the name of Bitter Drink. On long marches across the treacherous expanse of the wasteland, legionaries would forage the numerous Xander roots and Brock flowers that dot their path, utilizing these plants to create another form of healing powder to keep their wounded on the march. This drink is so horrifically bitter that in order to effectively consume it, a person would have to drink it all in one shot, as their stomach will reject it on the second gulp. The Twin Mothers were all about lessons, and this one perfectly encapsulates duality of healing the wound, but leaving the bitter pain that caused it. The story of the Twin Mothers is survived through a former frumentari of Caesar's Legion, who carries with him many tales of tribes he witnessed meet their end, including the tale of his own tribe. In the early days of Caesar's expansion, the Twisted Hares had formed a treaty with the Legion. The tribe's sheer size of territory and expertise in the wilderness made them the perfect advanced scouts, and Caesar would soon utilize them to conduct recon, searching for new tribes to assimilate. It's unclear as to how long the Twisted Hares benefited from this agreement, but what is clear is that Caesar never intended for it to be a permanent arrangement. In the town of Dry Wells, Caesar and the head of his frumentari, Wulpus and Colta, would sit down once again with the Twisted Hares, only this time they did not meet as equals. With the usefulness of the tribe having run its course, Caesar decided that they would be best served as fresh recruits in his legion. He proceeded to break their alliance, his eyes set on conquest.
They didn't know what the braids meant, the mark of my tribe, before Caesar came. Before Wulpus came for them at Dry Wells, there was death in that meeting, even while Wulpus smiled, asked for our help against the other tribes. All the while, they were looking to cast our history on the fire, and did. Another tribe, consumed by the bull. Nothing left.
The Twisted Hares soon became another number marked down in the ledger of the Legion's expansion, the detesters of which having been crucified along the remnants of Interstate 40, the lifeline to the east, acting as a reminder to those conquered of the fate that befalls those who resist. With Legion territory growing increasingly massive by the day, it wouldn't be long before they encountered tribes of a higher caliber than those they had previously conquered. One such tribe even produced the most brutal and efficient warrior the Legion has ever encountered. This notable tribe was once known as a tribe of the Arizona. The Hidebarks are rather unimpressive in of themselves, their largest praise coming from their aforementioned warrior. Standing 7 feet 1 inch tall and said to be maniacal in battle, this warrior would single-handedly defeat entire Legion patrols without breaking a sweat. Once the Legion had surrounded the Hidebarks and their chieftain agreed to surrender, it's said this warrior went insane with rage, attacking the members of his own tribe. In an onslaught that would strike fear into even the hardiest of wastelanders, the warrior slaughtered 15 members of his own tribe before he was eventually brought down. Impressed by this display of brutality, among other factors, Caesar had the man tended to, and once he awoke, Caesar extended him an offer to join the Legion.
I had him tended to. He was maimed, most of his face torn off. It was days before he regained consciousness. When he did, I went to his bedside and showed him the helmet I'd had forged to cover his face. I said he could have it if he'd fight for me. He accepted, on condition that he be allowed to kill the surviving males of his tribe. I said, make it the adult males, and you have a deal.
And thus, a legend was born. Lanius, the monster of the East. Following the conquest of the Hidebarks, Lanius would rise quickly to attain the position of legatus, allowing him to lead entire armies in Caesar's name. The Legion, after suffering a humiliating defeat against the new California Republic at the First Battle for Hoover Dam, and subsequently losing the leadership of their first legatus, Joshua Graham, would find itself desperate for both new leadership and also increased manpower. By this point, the Legion had been conquering for roughly 30 years and had pacified the majority of the American Southwest. The only place left to go was east. With a vast swath of troops under his command, Legate Lanius would launch a fierce campaign into the heart of Colorado, conquering any tribe that dared to stand in his way. It was here where the might of the Legion would encounter the straw that nearly broke its back. On the outskirts of Denver, Lanius' forces would encounter a tribe of dog tamers known as the Hangdogs. The tribe had formed a bond with the mongrels that overflowed from the ruins of Denver, a bond so strong that the tribe came to view the dogs as their spirit animals and lifelong companions. By the time the Legion had reached the city, they were overstretched from years of campaign and suffered heavily from a lack of food, water, and tribals to replenish their ranks. It wasn't the might of the Hangdogs that nearly defeated the Legion, but rather the logistical nightmare that they found themselves in. The tribe held out for a considerable time against Legion forces, so long in fact that it would change Lanius' approach to battle irrevocably.
I've been around dogs all my life. They're my life. Always were, all the way back when I was a tribal. One of the hangdogs outside Denver. Dogs roamed that city. Our tribe made peace with them, thought they were our spirit animals. Helped us hunt, provided for us in some lean times. Then the Legion came. Good thing, too. Stronger now. Don't need those beliefs anymore.
The tribe would survive in a way, however, as Caesar saw it useful to integrate dogs with professional trainers into his ranks. While the remainder of their cultural practices were erased, they were one of the lucky few to maintain some modicum of their identity following assimilation. While these are the only tribes we know of whose names have contributed to their ranks or been eradicated entirely, several other tribes have been affected by their proxies, and in some cases eradicated on their behalf. In the heart of Zion Valley, 3 tribes are locked in a power struggle over the region. The Dead Horses, a tribe of warriors and hunters led by Joshua Graham, after he miraculously survived his execution by Caesar. The Sorrows, led by Joshua's friend and fellow New Canaanite Daniel. And finally, the Whitelegs, a proxy of the Legion, currently led by Salt Upon Wounds, their acting war chief. Having been trained in the art of war by the former frumentari known as Ulysses, the Whitelegs would evolve from a meager raiding band based out of the Great Salt Lake to a devastating force of nature, much like the Blackfoot tribe from all those years ago. The only difference being, Caesar did not want the Whitelegs for his legion. He merely sought to use them to strike at his old friend and hit him where it hurt most, Graham's home of New Canaan. Luckily for Caesar, this wouldn't be too high of an ask, as the Whitelegs were already bitter rivals with the settlement, often fighting over territory and salvage. With their newfound weapons and training, the scales would finally tip in their favor. One night, under the cover of darkness, while Graham and others of the city's defenders were away, the Whitelegs would make their move. With Ulysses at their front, the tribe sacked the town, trapping and burning those in buildings while gunning down the rest. Once the flames died down, the tribe would salt the earth and press on into Zion Canyon in search of the survivors. The actions of these Legion proxies all but extinguishing the tribe of New Canaanites, adding to the growing list of tribes who faced annihilation from the Legion, either directly or indirectly.
I have bad news for your employers. New Canaan was destroyed, its citizens scattered. All because of the Whitelegs. And Caesar, of course. The Whitelegs want to join the Legion. Caesar's rite of passage is the destruction of the New Canaanites, almost assuredly because of me.
While the events of Fallout New Vegas are at this point still left ambiguous, and with any luck will continue to be left as such, it is worth noting the handful of tribes that interact with the Legion in one way or another following the various endgame slides. During the events of the main story, the Legion has a handful of proxies at work for them, other than the Whitelakes. One of these are the Great Khans, who, if left alone during the campaign, go on to fight for the Legion at the final battle of Hoover Dam. In the event of a Legion victory, they are forcibly assimilated into the Legion, marking the 88th tribe to join their ranks. Two other proxies are that of the Fiends of Outer Vegas and the Omertas of the Strip, both of which are utilized in Caesar's terror campaign prior to the final battle, but are ultimately wiped out in the event of a Legion victory. The Fiends' crippling addiction to chems rendering them worthless, and the Omertas likely being too shady and corrupt to be considered for assimilation. Caesar also seeks to utilize the skills and munitions of another of Vegas's famous tribes, the Boomers. Should they choose to fight for or against the Legion, they are left largely alone in the event that they manage to repair their bomber. However, it should be noted that if the bomber is never repaired and the Legion is victorious at the Second Battle of Hoover Dam, the Boomers are eventually overrun by Legion forces and ultimately assimilated, adding an 89th tribe to their ranks. In the event of a Legion victory, Caesar's forces move to occupy all settlements up to the Mojave outpost. In this expansion, they are certain to encounter the various smaller tribes of the Mojave. Through the end slides, we know for certain that they eradicate the Powder Gangers, opting not to assimilate them for unknown reasons. If I had to guess, likely due to their insubordinate and debaucherous behaviors, among other things. In this push, they will also encounter the long-lost brothers of the Khans from Vault 15. I'm speaking, of course, about the Jackals and Vipers. While not a part of the original V-15 crew, a tribe of raiders known as the Scorpions are also romping around these parts and will inevitably come into contact with the Legion as well. While no information is available as to how the Legion will handle their dealings with these various tribes, my guess is that they would all be eradicated. Assimilation, not even on the table. It's clear that Caesar seeks tribes that contain specific skills that would be beneficial to his ranks. Some notable ones including survival knowledge, medical knowledge, and combat prowess. These skills are not typically found amongst bands of raiders and scavengers. In addition, the smaller size of these tribes would indicate that assimilating them may be more hassle than what it's worth. And that brings us to the tribes of Zion Canyon. We know for sure that regardless of how hard they simp for Caesar, the Whitelegs are denied entry in the Legion due to their utter uselessness as anything other than a large band of raiders. But what are the Sorrows and Dead Horses? I believe both tribes have the potential for assimilation, but I think Caesar would be more interested in their total destruction. The Dead Horses would have made the perfect candidates for the Legion, but due to their link to Joshua Graham, Caesar would most certainly prefer they be completely destroyed, forever removing the memory and worship of the Burned Man from history. The Sorrows, on the other hand, have the highest likelihood for assimilation, in my opinion. Although pacifists in nature, we do see that they are capable of violence in Graham's ending of the story, becoming a solid warrior tribe in their own right. With their knowledge of tribal remedies and their advanced stealth and unarmed capabilities, the Sorrows look like the best candidates for a future career as legionaries. Unfortunately, I think they would also face total destruction at the hands of the Legion due to their connection to Joshua Graham and Daniel. Only time will tell. From a single tribe in a pocket of the Grand Canyon to the total domination of 4 southwestern US states, Caesar's Legion is unceasing, made stronger by each and every tribe that joins their ranks, bringing with them knowledge, experience, and ability. This has been the tribes of Caesar's Legion, 87 strong, with even more to come. Always true to Caesar.